Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Good evening. I'll try again.
Stop calling me
I'll use my teacher voice.
Brian.
If you can hear me, no. Hello, good evening, and welcome to our regular board meeting for June 14, 2022. It's exciting to be here as a fill-in or as a board clerk slash president tonight because John Girardi is not here as president. So I guess you'll have to follow along with me, okay? So I am Madonna Jarrell, and we are going to start our regular meeting tonight, an opening ceremony. And we are live on air, and we want to welcome all of our visitors and anyone watching out on YouTube, okay? So we will now call the meeting to order and begin with roll call.
Board Member Wood?
Here.
Board Member Espericueta?
Here.
Board Member Cornett?
Here.
Clerk Jarrell?
Here.
And Board President Girardi is absent.
Thank you. So next we will start, and we'll stand, please, and we'll be led by Member Espericueta in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? And I pledge
allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we continue our tradition, and we have our Palm Springs Unified Mission Statement read by Board Member Cornett.
right here.
All members of Palm Springs Unified School District are united in our commitment to equity. We create deep, meaningful learning opportunities, build professionalism, and engage parents and community to ensure success for all students. All students graduate with the skills, capacities, and confidence needed to succeed in a rapidly changing world.
Thank you. Next, we'll proceed with item number 6, report of closed session actions. Member Cornett, are there any closed session actions to report?
There are no closed session items to report.
Thank you. Next, item 7, with approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So passed. Thank you. Tonight, we continue with a special recognition, item 8. And the governing board wishes to recognize and commend the following recipients of the Riverside County Academic Athletic Award. So I'm going to ask our Board of Education to come on down, and we'll ask our award presenter, Mr. Mike Barney, to come with us down and welcome our recipients. So would you like to talk about the
I
award
would like to
first?
talk a little bit.
All
Did you
right.
want to say something?
And then I'm going to call them up,
Oh, fantastic.
if that's okay.
So my name is Mike Barney. I'm from Riverside County Office of Education. So thank you for letting me speak tonight. We have a great honor to give to your group. And this is on behalf of Riverside County Office of Education, my superintendent, Dr. Gomez. We are here to award the Palm Springs High School team the 21-22 Academic Team Award. Riverside County Office of Education initiated the Academic Team Award 22 years ago to connect the positive of events of sports with academics and to show off what athletics can do for our academics. And these girls now have done it for you. So I'm here to award the girls wrestling team. Did I do that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, the girls wrestling team Their GPA, and it's a combined GPA, is 3.68. So congratulations, girls. And just some final words. I'd like to thank Principal Ventura for doing a great job and leading this group of girls. But then also the most important person I think in the girls' lives right now, at least when it comes to girls wrestling, is Coach Custer. So congratulations, Coach Custer.
Okay. All right. Coaches, would you like to come up and help us shake hands of these amazing young ladies? The board would like to recognize each one of these special young women and call their names whether they're here or not, okay? So if you're here, you come on up. Jesula Acosta, not here? Okay, we'll clap for her. And Mr. Ventura, come on up here too. We'll get you in the line with us. Do we have Kimberly Arellano? No? Okay. Marian Cheroy. Congratulations, Marian. Thank you for coming. Charlene Cuellar. All right, Charlene. Abigail Deason. No. Alexa Duque. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Ana Garcia. Liliana Garcia. Catherine Haynes. Keep up the good work. Alexia Lara. Jessie Miel Monge. Leala Romero. Alexa Romo Martinez. Ariana Salcedo. And Brianna Salcedo. And Katie Sanchez. Congratulations. We're so proud of you.
I think we should, yeah, I don't need to be in the...
Yes, you do. Yeah. You keep in here.
I won't argue with you, Mike. No, no, you.
You're gonna be in here. Come on.
You should be in there.
Come on.
Come on. Very nice. This way. 1, 2, 3, one more. 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Do it again.
All of these are juniors.
Oh, good. One more year. Thank you. Okay, following our agenda, we'll move down to item number 9, a presentation. Our budget presentation, OE5, for 2022-23 with Dr. Murray.
Okay, good evening, board and Dr. Sweezy and the rest of cabinet. Before we get too far along with the budget presentation this evening, I'd like to recognize our Director of Fiscal Services, Peter Van Buskirk, and his team for the many hours and weekends he and his team put into the completion of this budget for the 22-23 school year. And on another related note, want to thank Peter. This is his last adoption budget that he'll be putting together for the district as he's planning on retiring in December. We do still have a unaudited actuals presentation in September, as well as a first interim presentation in December before he goes, and he's fully aware of those obligations. So anyway, thank you, Peter. So in addition to item 13A on tonight's agenda, public hearing regarding the Palm Springs Unified School District reserve levels for the 22-23 budget adoption, OE5, is also detailed in this SACS report under the criteria and standards section, in addition to the attachment in item 13B. So tonight we will be reviewing these items. So we'll start with a brief economic overview, and then everything else really focuses on the 22-23 budget. We'll start with the May revision, and then also look at the adoption budget revenue assumptions that we use to put this together, the unrestricted general fund budget and MYP, the restricted general fund budget and MYP, the combined general fund budget and MYP, our unrestricted general fund salaries and benefits and expenditures, budgets for the other funds that you find in the SACS report, the state teachers retirement system, STRS, and public employees retirement system, PERS, costs updates, COVID-19 resources updates, the reconciliation of interfund loans, and then the summary and recommendation that we'll give at the very end. So starting with a brief economic overview. According to many economists that we work with in putting this budget together, the economy is facing significant headwinds and has entered truly turbulent territory. Many factors pose significant risk to the economy, the state budget, and the long-term forecast. The gross domestic product, or GDP, was negative in the first quarter of this year. By definition, we are in a recession when we have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Supply chain issues are also impacting the inflation we are currently experiencing, and also the stock market volatility creates a risky environment for investors, especially our wealthiest residents. Since the top 1% of taxpayers in California account for 50% of the state's income tax revenue, this volatility is especially damaging to state revenues and ultimately our revenues. The coronavirus, together with new and continuing global conflicts, have also exacerbated what economists are calling global stagflationary shock. And that is stagnating the economy further and increasing the worry of a broadening and a deeper recession. We move into the May revise. Despite the fact that the governor has updated projections and proposals, there could still be significant changes to the budget when the legislature adopts the state spending plan. And they actually adopted the spending plan yesterday. Now it's in the governor's court to sign the budget by June 30th. Moving on to Proposition 98, the state proposition that guides TK-14 funding in California. You can see the governor proposes a record level of funding for California TK-14 schools in 22-23. In January, the governor proposed $8.8 billion in major ongoing investments in Proposition 98, represented by the gold-colored bars that you see on this graph. Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, or ELOP, was the largest proposed investment at $3.4 billion. LCFF, or the Local Control Funding Formula, was the second largest with a funded 5.33% cost of living adjustment, or COLA, and an added ADA policy to address long-term declining enrollment. By comparison, the May revision, represented by the bronze bars, includes major ongoing investments totaling $12.7 billion, increasing with the ELOP and the LCFF investments by a combined total of $10 billion. With respect to one-time investments, in January, represented by the red bars in this graph, the governor proposed nearly $4 billion in major one-time Proposition 98 investments. By comparison, the May revision, represented by the blue bars in the graph, includes major one-time investments totaling $16.8 billion, the largest being an $8 billion one-time discretionary block grant. Here on slide 10 is a tidy comparison between the governor's vision for 22-23 that he released in January and his May revision released last month that summarizes what we spoke of in the last few slides. Slide 11 shows our funding rates by grade span for next year. The smaller font numbers in parentheses are the dollar amounts above and beyond last year's May revision rates, and you can see there's some large increases there. You'll notice one column in this table is there that hasn't been there previously. This additional LCFF investment, or augmentation as it's referred to, if signed into law, would result in our district receiving roughly $5 million more in ongoing general fund money. This augmentation would apply only to our LCFF allocation and no other potential revenue. Here, we've included the funding rates that include supplemental and concentration grant amounts. As you may know, these extra funds are what we use to build our LCAP that Dr. Pfeffer will be speaking about here shortly. As with the previous slide, the smaller font numbers in parentheses are the dollar amounts above and beyond last year's May revision rates. The amount of funding we receive for these extra funds is determined by our unduplicated pupil percentage, or UPP. As a reminder, the unduplicated pupil is one who is either socioeconomically disadvantaged, homeless, foster, or an English learner student. And for the year just ended, our UPP rate was 97.03%. The Senate and the Assembly, as I shared, they approved their agreement or came to agreement yesterday on a plan to move forward to Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom now is statutorily required to sign next year's budget by June 30th. Here on this slide, you can see that the governor's plan provides an additional $2.1 billion in ongoing LCFF funding. The Assembly's plan, however, is to increase LCFF funding for $5.6 billion through a 15% COLA. The Senate's plan was to increase the LCFF funding $5 billion in 22-23 and another $5 billion in 24-25. And as I stated earlier, we should know by the end of this month what our final budget numbers should be here. And also, as I've stated previously, at that time we'll revise our revenue projections, and we will be sharing with you what we're sharing with you today will be updated in a 45-day budget revision. By the time the governor signs the budget for this year, we would have 45 days to do a budget revision that will include the actual revenues and any other changes that we need to make to any expenditures in 45 days. So right now, that time frame is probably the first board meeting in August that we'll be bringing back to you updated budget figures. Earlier in the presentation, I shared with you that the governor for the first time proposed one-time discretionary funds. And I've said before in previous budget presentations that Governor Newsom was one that really never provided any one-time discretionary funds. This is the first time in his tenure that he's done that. And for this year, he's referring to it as the discretionary block grant. Whether or not it looks like that in the final budget revision is yet to be seen. You can see from the information on this slide that the uses of these funds are, as the name really implies, and that is truly discretionary. With continuing funds for education, the governor has also, in the May revision, identified other funds, and we'll get to those in just a second. As we saw with the LCFF funding comparisons a few slides back, the governor, assembly, and the Senate all have different ideas as to how much one-time money should be distributed and what it should be distributed for. However, it does appear that based on what we know right now, the governor's vision for this funding would be the most flexible for the end user, and that, of course, would be us. Moving on to our assumptions that we use to identify our adoption budget for this year. Our budget that we are presenting to you this evening for your consideration is based on a best guess analysis using a variety of resources, including School Services of California, Capital Advisors, the Legislative Analyst's Office, the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team, or FCMAT, the Department of Finance, and our own Riverside County Office of Education. As you can see so far, we do anticipate some revisions once the legislature's plan and the governor's plan become one plan, or the budget, later this month. Once that happens, and again, as I alluded to previously, we'll bring to you that 45-day budget revision in most likely the first board meeting in August. Here on slide 18, Dr. Signoret's favorite slide, you see that this graph is very familiar to you. You see it pretty much the first Friday communication of every month. The bottom yellow line you see shows our week 1 enrollment each month throughout the school year. If we compare this year's enrollment in June to the same time period during the 21-22 school year, it shows that we have 358 fewer students. As this graph relates to next year's budget, it's important to remember that we cannot create a budget without accurately identifying and projecting the budget year's ADA, or average daily attendance. ADA is closely related to enrollment. Enrollment can be higher than ADA, but ADA can only be lesser than or equal to the total enrollment number of our students. Over the pandemic, or during the pandemic, we had a hold harmless ADA at 94%, which was very near the state average. For comparison, this year's ADA figure at the second principal apportionment, which is a time period through roughly the beginning of April, was at 87%. In normal years, this decrease of 7% would cost the district over $17 million in less funding. This reduction, also referred to as the fiscal cliff, as you've heard before, would be built into our budget if is built into our budget under current law. We expect both the legislature and the governor to have plans to flatten or soften that cliff, so it won't be that huge drop in ADA that would happen if we just went with our P2 ADA. And again, whatever flattening becomes law, we'll again represent that to you in our 45-day budget revision in August. So looking at more of our assumptions, you can see that in building our 22-23 budget, we're actually assuming that our ADA decline will rebound a little and improve as the need for quarantines and isolation should continue to diminish. And we saw that actually through the spring of this year, where our attendance actually improved over the course of the year. And so we're expecting that to continue moving forward. Our revenue assumptions related to both unrestricted and restricted lottery funds show a $13 per ADA increase for restricted lottery and $16 per ADA increase for restricted. So 13 for unrestricted and 16 for restricted. Looking at our unrestricted general fund budget and multi-year projection, Slide 21 really details all of the meat related to our unrestricted general fund. And of course, we spend the most time on this because this is the fund that really pays for most things in our district. On this slide, there are a few lines that are important for me to point out to you in addition to the bottom line. In looking at 22-23 column in the table, the $269,635,347 in total revenues includes all LCFF funds and does not include any carryover funds. Actual carryovers will not be seen or realized until September when we complete our unaudited actuals for the 21-22 school year. Historically, over the last 5 years, we've had anywhere from $5 to $10 million fall out or carry over from one year to the next. In 1920, during the pandemic, we had $15 million carry over, and we project slightly less fallout from the 21-2 budget. We project our expenditures to be $262,061,972, leaving a balance of a little over $7.5 million. Of the $22,971,963 in other sources and transfers in, $16 million is from Fund 17 for budgeting purposes. Almost $7 million is from Fund 40 for routine restricted maintenance and classroom furniture. For other uses and transfers out, $2.8 million or $2,816,064, or the entire amount listed there, is to fund 68 and 69, which is our property and liability insurances. $2.5 million is to pay for our property and liability insurance. As I stated, $300,000 is to fund our Teamsters retirement pools, and the remaining $1,000 is to offset costs associated with the extra instructional day. Of the $31,619,840 in contributions, the entire amount is projected for special education program and transportation related expenses. So due in part to the significant contributions we need to make, you can see that we are projecting a deficit unrestricted general fund budget of $3.89 million. As we continue to work our way down this table for the 22-23 school year, you can see that we are estimating our July 1 beginning balance in our unrestricted general fund to be $21,627,981. And in about a year from now, June 30th, 2023, we're projecting our unrestricted general fund ending fund balance to be $17,737,415. And again, keeping in mind that that does not include any carryover funds from this year. And it also includes our most conservative estimates at this point. The components of the unrestricted general fund ending fund balance are listed under the $17.7 million, include revolving cash and stores, our statutory 3% reserve for economic uncertainties, and then funds currently assigned. The $150,000 in revolving cash and stores is the inventory we currently have in the warehouse. The $11,034,491 is our reserve for economic uncertainties. And remember, that is derived based on a statutory formula of a percentage of expenditures in the budget. And the $2,528,311 under assign represents funds assigned but not yet encumbered at year closing. I want to draw your attention to the second to last line, and that's textbooks, and that reads at $4,024,613. Just as a reminder, these funds, along with our restricted lottery funds for textbooks, will be used to purchase the science textbooks that Dr. Keelian presented to you at our May 24th board meeting, you remember. And then lastly, it's important to remind the board that this budget does not include any increases associated with bargaining agreement settlements. Those adjustments will be reflected in the next budget presented to you, once agreements have been ratified by units and the county has approved our AB 1200 documentation. Any questions on the unrestricted budget before we move on to our restricted general fund budget and MYP? All right, moving on. Slide 23 shows the restricted general fund budget, also known as Fund 06 for 22-23. For other sources and transfers in, the $2,911,971 comes from Fund 9, which is our CV charter, and that is the money that we get from the charter for providing SPED, or special education services, to the school. When we look at the restricted general fund budget, we see we balance only through a $31,619,840 contribution from our unrestricted general fund. The $25,007,636 in assigned funds or projected fund balances in restricted programs, including educator effectiveness, restricted lottery, A through G access, and a small amount in one-time special education money. As we move now to our combined general fund, when we look at the unrestricted general fund, Fund 03, and restricted Fund 06, and that's shown in the SACS report that I held up at the beginning. You can see there's a Fund 03, or a Form 03, which is for Fund 03, and then a Form 06 is also for Fund 06. Combined, it's referred to as Fund 01. On page 25 here, you can see that the total revenues we have are at an all-time high, and that's even using the most conservative numbers moving forward for next year at $337 million. And also an all-time high in expenses of over $365 million. The rest of this slide contains information shared with you on the previous two slides. In looking at the 22-23 column, you can see the deficit reflected in the third row and its impact on the ending fund balance on the ninth row. Okay, any questions about the unrestricted or restricted or the combined general fund budget at this point? Okay. Moving on to unrestricted general fund salaries and benefits expenditures. And again, this is something that the board has been interested in knowing as in past years, so I had included this in this year's report as well. Transitioning now to salaries and benefits for 22-23. In the top table on this slide, if we take a closer look at the last 5 years, you can see that we're pretty much at average when we come to what we've spent for people. And when I say for people, I'm including salaries and benefits. And that's right around 86%. The second table, the little table on the left, shows that our ADA has been trending over the last 4 years and our prediction for 22-23. And again, we're showing an uptick because of that increase in attendance. On this slide is just another way to show the data. It's 14.72%, or about $38,579,081 of our unrestricted expenditures are for materials, supplies, books, and other services. If we take a look at the budgets for other funds, and again, in this SACS report, it shows budgets. It shows our budget for all of our funds. You can see that we show our projected revenues and expenditures for our other major funds. As you know, Fund 08, the Student Activity Special Reserve Fund, is new this year and is included in this table for the very first time. Also, as a reminder, while we do have a Fund 11 on the books, the revenue comes as a pass-through from College of the Desert. College of the Desert oversees the adult education funding for our area and allocates funds to districts for specific purposes. We're projecting a zero or a positive fund balance in all other funds for 22-23, and that's the expectation. If we look at the 22-23 State Teachers Retirement System, or STRS, and the Public Employees Retirement System, PERS, cost update, just a reminder to the board that when it comes to paying for our teachers' retirement, and our classified staff retirement, that really comes from three main pots. The first pot is the district's contribution. The second pot is the state's contribution. And the third pot is the actual employee's contribution. So here, in looking at slide 32, wanted to point out a few highlights to you. The STRS and PERS percentages listed in the 22-23 budget column, 19.10% and 25.37% are the current percentages for the budget year. So those are the numbers we use to put the budget together for next year. The figures in the increase rows show the percent increase from the previous year. And the figures in the cumulative row show the cumulative increase from the 2013 and 14 rates when the latest funding plan was established. For STRS or STRS, there is a 2.18% increase for 22-23, and with PERS or PERS, or the Public Employees Retirement System, we're looking at a 2.46% increase in the budget year, followed by a 0.17% decrease in 23-24. And if we look at slide 33, it puts those actual numbers into dollar amounts. Here you can see that we projected the additional STRS and PERS impact through 24-25. Lastly, please keep in mind these figures are based on our current 22-23 staffing estimates, and they will change as employees come and go into the system. And as we all know, that's almost daily. I also wanted to include a COVID-19 resources update for you related to the money that we've received for fighting the pandemic. The information here on slide 35 is updated through May 31st to reflect our current expenses and balances. The one you received in the Friday a couple weeks ago was up through April, and Peter was able to update the figures through May. Here, the first round of CARES funds have zero balances, and that's what we would expect. The deadline for their expenditures are later this fall. And the second round, you can see, starting with ESSER 2 down to the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant for Paraprofessional Staff, or Resource 7426, have a combined balance of $106,070,828. As I shared with you during the May 25th study session, Educational Services has developed a spending plan for these resources that will supplement our existing regular resources. As we look to reconciliation of interfund transfers, you may remember that each year this time I share this information with you regarding temporary loans. You may recall that OE 6 policy number 13 states that we may not permanently transfer money from one fund to another, and it's during this yearly budget presentation where we show where we actually do not keep it in the loaned fund, but we show that we paid it back. And then lastly, the summary and recommendation. Even using the most conservative numbers to put our adoption budget together, you can see that we are saying that our financial position is such that it is sufficient to meet our obligations in 22-23 in the following 2 years. As a result of using these conservative budget figures, we know that those will change when the governor signs the budget for the 22-23 school year. And lastly, again, I've said it before, I want to say it again, please remember that we will be updating our revenues and any expenditures between now and the 45-day revision period, which will be the first board meeting in August. And at that board meeting, we will be presenting to you a brief update of the governor's budget plan. It would include the COLA or any other changes, as well as any other revenues that have come into our district, and any adjustments of expenditures that we had originally planned to have, and any revisions that we have over that time period. So that's my presentation for this evening. If there's any questions that I can answer, and if I can't, I'll lean on Pete for some.
Dr. Murillo, and one quick question. In this graduation time or for the senior graduation, the school district provide or giving computers to the seniors to take it with them. The school district is replacing those computers for future students that need it? Or?
Yes. Yes. Actually, those computers that were given to graduating seniors were computers that were deemed surplus. And as they were surplused, they were no longer needed within our normal student population. And so, if you recall, we are on a regular computer replacement program. This past year, that replacement program was funded through CARES funds, and because of the need to provide distance learning. Previously, they were always funded by redevelopment funds that we use mostly for capital projects, but have also, at board direction, been used for technology and other things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. It looks
Welcome.
like we're excited to see what's coming in the next couple months. And,
Yes, we all are.
thank you. All right, we'll proceed with number 9B, our local control accountability plan presentation. And that would be OE5 and OE10. And Dr. Kovetz will introduce Dr. Pfeffer.
Well, I'm very pleased to present or introduce Dr. Pfeffer, our Director of State and Federal Programs. He is going to present the annual update of our 3-year LCAP plan for PSUSD as well as Cielo Vista Charter.
Well, and good evening. As Dr. Kovac stated, we're here for a review of our local control accountability plan for the 22-23 school year for both Palm Springs Unified, and we'll be touching on Cielo Vista Charter, and that will be followed with our public hearing segment for these items. I'm going to go through a review of the plan. We'll be touching on some of the significant changes and some of the significant adjustments as we go. I encourage the board to go ahead and stop me if there are questions along the way, but I will pause here and there to make sure we address any items. As a brief review of the current LCAP structure, the current plan is part of a 3-year plan cycle. This current year was year 1, so we're transitioning from year 1 to year 2 within that particular cycle. So each annual review year is set up to, really be a revision, addition, and deletion process rather than a comprehensive redesign of the full plan until we hit that next main redesign cycle, which will happen in the spring of 2024 in time for the 24-25 plan. So there are a couple of exceptions to that we'll touch on along the way, but for the most part, you're going to see a plan structure that is continuing in its 3-year design as it was intended. The sections of the LCAP are reviewed here on slide 3. In essence, we have a similar structure to what we had before, but there are some new plan structures that require a demonstration of both our funding and our increased and improved services percentages. So within the plan, you have various items that outline specific funding portions, but also some services that are zero funded that increase services for low-income English learners and or foster youth within the district. We'll be taking the next few minutes and going through each of these particular sections, doing an overview, and just as a reminder, the full plan document is linked to tonight's agenda. So we'll start with the supplement to the annual update. This was presented to the board back on the 22nd of February as part of a 1-year compliance element of an update given the number of funds that the district had received due in part to the pandemic. That mid-year update included tables that outline metrics additions as well as an update on budgetary pieces. The portion of that exists into the LCAP plan is the actual plan document itself, the supplement document itself. Those other updates for metrics and for the expenditure components are subsumed into other parts of the plan. We then enter into the plan summary components. This is where we do some general overview of the plan elements. In these sections, you'll find reflections that highlight some of the successes that we've had as a district recently, based on metrics, educational partner input, and our needs assessment. We also point out some different needs that the district has, as well as highlight a few items that are of the utmost importance within our LCAP. We also have a section in this particular segment that talks about our comprehensive support and improvement schools, our CSI school sites. Currently, our district has 2 of those, Desert Hot Springs High School and Painted Hills Middle School. Those were designated according to the California State Dashboard back in 2019. Those statuses have not been updated since then, as the state has not updated that accountability dashboard. We're expecting that update to happen this coming November or December, so some of these statuses may change based on performance here in the 21-22 academic year. The next section of the plan speaks to engaging educational partners across 3 different topics. This is something that we've shared with the board a couple of times already, back in our study sessions on the 12th of April and on May 24th, where we review items such as the survey inputs that we've received, the many different meetings that we've had with our different parent advisory committees, district advisory teams, the superintendent's forums, as well as school site councils across the district, among other sessions. There are specific groups that are required to have feedback presented in specificity. Those are listed there under prompt 2, such as our LCAP Parent Advisory Committee, our DLAC, our District Advisory Team, and SELPA. All of these groups were consulted as part of that process, and it's outlined in that section of the plan regarding some of their input regarding next steps for the district, as well as successes that we've had. As always, before we enter in and talk about some of the actions within the plan, we always take a moment to review the 3 goals around our structure. Just as a reminder, goal 1 is about academics and carries the heavy weight of the plan, if you will, both in actions and in finances. That's about making sure that all students are academically ready for not only their next grade level, but college and career opportunities following graduation. Goal 2 is about family and community engagement, making sure that we are promoting collaborative relationships with our local community and have those positive parent interactions to promote student success across the district. And finally, goal 3 speaks to healthy and safe school environments, relating into such things as mental health, school safety, and a variety of topics similar in nature. Now, as we enter into the action segment of the plan, again, many of these are consistent with what we had in the last year's plan. Moving from year 1 to year 2, again, we're looking for more revisions, additions, and those types of items. So in many of our cases with our actions, and actions 1.1 and 1.2 are good models for this, they're continuing, they're modified, they're moving forward. So there are some budgetary changes due to changing in cost, but for the most part, the actions remain unchanged from the prior year as a continuing model in our 3-year plan. What I'm going to do moving forward is highlight our significant changes as we go through our list of actions. These were also shared with the board as part of the May 24th study session. We walked through most of these and just touch on where we've made those adjustments and where we've made some different pieces to add to our structure. Similar to actions 1.1 and 1.2, 1.3 and 1.4 remain relatively unchanged, where we're still going to be utilizing time and effort in order to add collaboration time and technology resources in the district. Where we see our first additions here is in 1.5, our multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS structure for academic success. Here in the new plan, we've added paraprofessionals for the elementary primary reading intervention program, which has shown positive results in moving forward reading skills in the elementary level, as well as adding in the Freckle Math program in order to support secondary students in improving mathematics results. Another good example is on our next group of items. 1.7, our dual immersion program expands slightly, adding a new grade level to the middle school for this next year, and therefore we'll be having another teacher added into the program. 1.8 gives an opportunity to speak to the threading between plans momentarily. So although the action 1.8 is unchanged from a year ago, and we're continuing efforts in those areas, the board approved previously our A through G completion improvement grant plan a couple months ago, which threads into this same action. So we have those supplemental plans, universal pre-K coming up today. We had our expanded learning plan. All of these come together, and this is a good time to highlight how those threaded plans really work in conjunction with one another. Within the next items, these mostly remain relatively unchanged with just some minor adjustments. We did have some verbiage change within 1.11 and 1.12 as part of supplementing our special education students and assisting our low-income students with special needs. However, the main action points there remain the same. And in 1.14, I would like to highlight our CTC teacher residency program that we'll be looking to onboard here in the 22-23 year. So we have some matching dollars that have been added to that particular action in order to help us build our own teachers from within the district. It's an exciting new program that's going to be run out of the Human Resources Office. 1.16, enhanced elementary opportunities has had some substantial addition to it in the form of 15 elementary STEAM teachers. These teachers will be working with elementary students on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics applied work, providing a broader course of study to our elementary setting than what we've had before. In addition, we are further supplementing slightly our music teacher staffing and our PE teacher staffing to again allow our students in the elementary setting to have PE and music from credentialed teachers in those areas. Finally, 1.19 has our new director of expanded learning in that particular cluster to help merge together our supplemental services offerings, summer schools, intersession pieces, and that combines with our expanded learning opportunities plan. We're adding in the MyOn program, which is an online reading program in elementary, in 1.20. And 1.21 allows us an opportunity to show one of those actions that is an increase in services for students at zero cost. This happens to be some of our community business partners and some of our community liaisons working with our high schools on things like resume preparedness, job interview skills, college readiness, and the importance of those items as an example of other services that benefit low-income students across the district. So that's the total number of actions. Again, the heavy lifting across Goal 1. Goal 2, again, is about parent and family connectedness. Highlights in the 22-23 plan in these areas include the addition of some communication systems adjustments, something that we heard in our educational partner input that we need to continue to develop and continue to refine. And so we have some items there for that purpose, as well as to work under diversity and equity and inclusion pieces inside that part of the plan. 2.2 also has some additional specialists to engage with families, and one specifically for students with special needs and their families through the FACE specialist group that we've been able to put together this last year and have had positive successes with. In Goal 3, we have some additions here as well, including 5 additional mental health therapists in Action 3.2, and an additional dean being added in Action 3.5. 3.6, the MTSS structure for social emotional learning and behavioral supports features some additions as well, including 7 MTSS coaches that will be working across our middle schools and 2 of our high schools to help support social emotional needs and behavior intervention work, as well as adding a behavior analytics tool to our Panorama software in order to better service the needs of those students. Also, in addition, in Goal 3 happens in Action 3.10, where we've added some additional hours for recess coaches and supervision aides in order to be able to add additional coverage and safety items on the playgrounds, both before school, during recess, and after, and during lunch times. The recess coaches as well get some more time to engage with students in positive ways. And then finally, in Goal 3, we have another one of those quality improvement pieces that actually is a $0 expenditure in the form of mental health interns that will be coming and joining our district to work with students through the Student Services Department and their work with servicing student needs. Now also here we have highlighted a couple of the actions from the Cielo Vista Charter Plan provided by Mrs. Perez-Chica. Oh, there she is in the back there, giving a little wave. I knew she was in here somewhere, I just had to spot her. So she's outlined for us some of the key actions here in Goal 1 and Goal 2 to give an idea of what they're highlighting in the 22-23 year. Again, similar structure, more refinement, addition, and tweaking of the plan than a full comprehensive rewrite. We also can see similar items in goals 3 and 4 that'll be on slide 22 there. Again, more about that, developing those systems and doing those next step positive items. So after the action pieces within all of the plans, the next function speaks to the increased and improved services section. This has explanations of how the needs of low-income students, English learners, and foster youth were considered first as part of developing all actions and goals within the plan. It also includes how specifically they're going to increase and improve services based on the needs, conditions, and circumstances within the district for those student populations, and the expected outcomes that we suggest to have. You'll also find how the concentration add-on funding that's being received last year and this year is being used to supplement personnel within the district. Some of those items are those STEAM teachers, the paraprofessionals for the reading intervention program, similar other items that I've highlighted previously in the actions. You'll also find in this some staff to student ratios by type for all staff that is providing direct services for students, which is not just a classroom ratio, but includes support staff, intervention teachers, special education staff, and other folks that are working with our students. In the latter sections of the plan, you'll note our action tables. This is where we outline the current budgetary pieces from both the 21-22 year and the 22-23 year, showing what the current plans are, what those expenditures are, and how they're broken out between both LCFF funds as well as federal funds across the board. To summarize those pieces, we've put together slides 25 for the Palm Springs Unified Plan and 26 for the Cielo Vista Plan, where you can see that the total supplemental and concentration revenue in the form of $83,178,179 is split across the 3 goals along and further supplemented with some of the federal funding that's directly tied to some of those actions. The Cielo Vista plan is laid out similarly, and you'll notice that in their plan, again, there are $3 million plus in supplemental and concentration. Again, they're to service those same student groups of low-income students, English learners, and foster youth. So that's a comprehensive review of the plan. Again, the full document is attached to the board agenda. At this point, I'd like to open to any questions from the board regarding our plan structure. Please.
I have a question. Is there a percent, do you know, of the LCFF funds that are spent on personnel? Would you say it's 50, 80%, 90%?
That is a great question. It is broken out in the plan on some of the action tables. I didn't come prepared with that number right away. It generally comes out to a similar number to what you hear from Dr. Murray in the overall plan, somewhere in that 80+% range that goes directly to personnel. We are personnel heavy in our plan. Mm-hmm. We feel as though adding personnel to provide services is one way that we can increase and improve services for these target populations. But I did not bring that number with me specifically today.
So it's probably somewhere in the number you think of around the same as what it would be for our regular personnel, about 85%?
I believe so, yes.
And that's comprised of parts of individuals too. It's not full, not every person funded by the LCAP is a full FTE.
Right.
So there's,
Right.
yeah.
But the money-wise, it's probably about 85% of the LCAP.
80, or I'd say closer to 80%, yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Do you have any other questions, board members? I have one. I'm going back to slide 18, okay. The MTSS descriptions. It is most likely an area of need, but I'm not sure. I'm just curious, how did you arrive at these kinds of positions and this type of support for our students who need behavior management? What type of data showed you that this is an area of need?
So it's a combination of data sources. As with any other evaluation, multiple metrics is always the key. So we never want to rely solely on one piece of data to drive those decisions. Things like suspension rates, rationales for that, looking at behavior patterns, a lot of educational partner input, listening to the student experience, listening to the staff experience, listening to our families' experiences, making sure that we're connecting to the needs that they help to identify as well as all part of this. It's also a collaborative process amongst our teams getting input for what those actions may be. The educational services team as a whole, and in this case being in goal 3, the student services department weighed in a bit as to how these items would be best used as well. So it's a pretty complicated set of items, but it does span a number of different metrics and determinations.
And were teachers and administrators included in those surveys, I'm sure?
Yeah, so we collect some of that information in surveys through our Panorama survey, which of course is, as we shared in the study session previously, we had pretty strong replies from both of those groups. Also in our Thought Exchange survey, as well as in our district advisory team for the LCAP is a combination of teachers and administrators. We have a superintendent's forum that also includes those folks. From the parent side, of course, we had a number of different other pieces, and then we also use student survey information, as well as I visited each of the comprehensive high schools in order to gather data specifically from the students in an advisory team type session.
I'm just curious how this will look. Is this a department that will be housed in one building, or will there be many pieces at each of the high schools? How does this look in real person?
Yeah, when you're talking about the MTSS pieces, that really needs to access the students where they are. So this is really separated around to the different schools for the most part in direct services to students. Those MTSS coaches, for instance, that we're adding, you'll see at each one of our middle schools and 2 of our high schools and participating in those particular items. You do have district level staff that'll be working between different sites, but for the most part, you'll find that the pieces through this MTSS section are going to be at the school sites themselves.
I do have a question, maybe for Cabinet and yourself, Dr. Pfeffer, about social workers. Have we had any luck in hiring any?
Dr. Kovac?
Yes, and I'm looking at Mrs. Musso out there. Would you like to share how many we've hired and update on the?
Fantastic. Thank you. That's great. That's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Dr. Pfeffer. We appreciate all this hard work, and we look forward to see it come out in our plans for the new year.
Fantastic. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. So this will be brought to you at the next meeting for adoption, again, pending what comes on from our hearing this evening.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Okay, everybody okay? We'll move on to public comment. Member Cornett, have we received any email comments?
We have not received any electronic comments or email comments.
Okay, so now we move on to in-person comments. And we remind our participants that all oral comments are being directed to the board in under 3 minutes. And Board Member Cornett will act as our timekeeper, and they shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during public comments, and board members do not respond during public comments. So we're going to ask Rocio Conde to please come to the podium. Thank you, Rocio.
I don't know, can you hear me? All right. Let me put this out. Okay. Dear members of the Palm Springs Unified School District Board of Education, I am Rocio Conde, member of the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC of the Desert Council. Today, I am here because I trust in your good judgment in understanding equity and justice for all. I had the opportunity to read some of the job descriptions and requirements for some new positions in the school district, and I am very concerned about the requirements for these positions. One of these positions is the Diversity and Racial Equity Specialist. These are two positions with the same title but with different requirements and job description. One of them is a monolingual position and one is a bilingual position. You may think that the bilingual position would have a higher salary. However, the salary is the same. Moreover, the monolingual position does not require any proficiency tests in English to show their ability to write and read English. However, the test in English, to show that, the bilingual position requires they pass the proficiency test in English and designated second language. Not only that, but one of the basic functions will be to translate communication between personal and non-English speaking parents and members of the community. In this position, it is required to provide translation services for both verbal and written communication. As you are aware about the population of students and parents in this school district, the majority of students are Latino and the majority require bilingual services. I do not understand why these two positions are not bilingual. There is no equity when the requirements and job duties do not show equity. These two positions are a clear example of the inequity that exists in the field of education. This discourages the Latino community to apply for a position that requires an English proficiency test only because they are bilingual? How are we sure that a monolingual applicant is proficiency in English only because they are monolingual? I am concerned about sending this message to the Latino community. If you are bilingual, you are in disadvantage because you need to do more than a monolingual. I had to come and express how I feel about it. We are in summer break, and believe me, if I would have read this job description sooner, I would have more time, and I would have informed more people in our community of what's going on. I hope you, as elected officials, use your best judgment in approving important documents. Thank you for your time and service. And I really would like to read this, it's a quote. A racist policy is any measure that produces or sustains racial inequity between racial groups. An anti-racist policy is any measure that produces or sustains racial equity between racial groups. By policy, I mean written and unwritten laws, rules, procedures, processes, regulations, and guidelines that govern people. There is no such thing as non-racist, or race-neutral policy. Every policy in every institution, in every community, in every nation is producing or sustaining either racial inequity or equity between racial groups. Ibram X. Candy, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conde. We will then proceed to our next item on our agenda, number 11, board member comments. Do we have any comments from the board? Board members, Bericueta, would you like to start?
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Rocio, for your comments. I will try to put my comments together because I'm trying to log in my computer when I have my notes, and I wasn't able to log in. But I want to wrap, after the last meeting, I assist to the all high school graduation, San Jacinto, Palm Springs, Desert Spring, Cathedral City, Rancho Mirage, and also I have the opportunity to assist to the street naming in the Desert Spring. Congratulations to April Martinez. Sorry. In the one, April Martinez and Daisy Nayol. They were the two in Desert Spring. I don't have the opportunity to assist to the one in Catira City, but congratulations to Sofia Gonzalez and Christopher Vega. Also, returning to my first comment, congratulations to the class at 2020. And also, yesterday, I assist with the superintendent, Dr. Muriel, to have the 2x2, but was a 3x3 maybe. It was with the Mayor Gutierrez, Pro Mayor Pro Team, Rita Lam, and the city manager, Mr. McClendon. And we had good conversation related to housing, related to return to have field trips, including trips to the city, to the government agencies, to show the student how the local government works. And that is it for my comments. Thank you.
I just want to say again, congratulations to all of our high school graduates. All the graduations were really well done, very special for our graduates and their families, and it was really wonderful to be a part of those celebrations. I'm excited about our TK Universal Pre-K for our district, and looking forward to a presentation on our summer school offerings. And I was excited about a drone boot camp, so thank you to technology for putting those on and all the hard work. I think that's a fabulous activity for our kids to be involved with, and they can even become a licensed drone pilot, which is exciting. So that's it. Now, Mrs. Conde, thank you for your comments.
Okay, tonight I just have a reflection. I'm not going to review and state some of the wonderful opportunities I've had these last couple weeks, but it's more of a reflection. And I'll start with Maya Angelou, and she said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And as we listen to over 1,400 graduates shake our hands and thank us sincerely from the bottom of their hearts for being able to be successful and to be able to be in person and in front of their family and before their peers at many places across the district, it just warms my heart to help us all remember how difficult this last year was and how we made our kids feel. And so I was thinking of adjectives, and I think of, as I heard them speak, the speakers, they talked about, all of them had the same theme: family, friends, teachers, and COVID. And they all felt successful, safe, valued, accepted, strong, important, inspired, and most of all, they were very optimistic. So my heart goes out to all of the employees, every person behind the scenes, every single person in our schools, outside of our schools, in all departments associated with our district, in helping our students feel optimistic and seeing them smile, and so excited to know that the COVID and all of those challenges are now something that they can move on from. So that's just my reflection, how fortunate we are to see our kids be successful and help support them in this last year. It was a challenge across those months. It was really tough on many people. And I think that we did more than we've ever done before to see our kids thrive and be so happy. So thank you. That's all for me. Next, Superintendent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, board members, for your comments. I'll just keep my comments brief this evening as well, and I'm going to ask Erica to help me show everyone in the audience something in just a second. I do like to give the public health update at each of our board meetings, and I do this by reporting to all of us what the COVID positivity rates and the case rates are for Riverside County. So I think it's important to remember the case rate is a number of cases per 100,000 residents. And at the very highest this school year, it was over 255 cases, and that was on January 21st. Then a low in April 12th, where the case rate was 3 per 100,000. Well, the last 3 board members I've reported, it's gone from 3 to 8 to 26.8, and then today to 41.1. So in Riverside County, the case rate is definitely increasing, and it's increasing pretty consistently and steadily. The positivity rate from a low of 1.7% in April to today at 9% positivity rate. And we know that those rates are affected by so many home tests, which is a wonderful thing. But those numbers do give pause. So just want to continue to encourage people to take those precautions, get boosted, get vaccinated, keep washing your hands and wearing a mask indoors, especially in very crowded spaces. I wanted to ask Erica to assist this evening in just showing the public on our new website, a new way that our board agendas are presented. So this is a new system for us here in Palm Springs, but I will say not a new system in California, and many districts across the state have been using this. So to find the board agendas, right here on the front page is just this button. So right beneath the slider there's the second button from the left that says board meeting agenda. That button is always there. It's not hidden, not hard to find. When you click on it, this again visually looks different. So in the middle of the page, the highlighted section is kind of giving you the directions. Click meetings, and up here on the right is where it says meetings. We're going to be making that highlighted section an actual button, so you can just click it there instead of looking up to the right. When you click on the meetings, you'll see in the new system, tonight is our first meeting using this new agenda system. What's exciting is that it includes a QR code. So anyone can scan this QR code with your phone, and you can see your board agenda there. And that would be, for example, for the public if you wish to follow along on your phone. This is what the board agenda structure looks like. Looks a little bit different, but still does all of the same things. We're in the process right now of having our previous board agendas from the old system migrated over to this new system. But for right now, if you drop down to Board of Education, click there. On the left-hand side, you'll see it says archived board agendas. Clicking there takes you to all of our previous board meeting agendas. So this is what it used to look like. So all of these will be moved, and it will be moved over to that new site. But again, it's all still there, contained on our district website. There's one other thing that I'd like to ask Erica, give her a second to click around, and that is the Find My School or Find My Trustee Area map. This is something I'm super excited about. I've talked about it before, but it seems like sometimes people have trouble finding it. So under district information, down at the bottom, it says trustee areas. I've had a couple emails from community members. And then you can see here is all of the discussion that we had about trustee area maps. And then where Erica has scrolled now, this is an interactive map. that you can type in your address and it will tell you what trustee area that address is in. If you, and I'm not going to ask Erica to do it, but if you're using this map, you can actually expand it very, very well, and it zooms in with great level of detail, including streets and street names. So again, had a couple community questions about trustee areas where this is where I live. I can't tell where it is on the map. This program lets you type in any address and it will tell you which trustee area as well as what schools you would attend if you have children living there. And you just do that by clicking over on the right-hand side. Thank you, Erica. Thanks. That was a great demonstration. I appreciate it. We've made a lot of improvements to our website, and we're going to continue to keep working on it, but I did want to share a couple of those things, again, with Erica's great help. Very, very briefly, I want to also mention what we talked about at our last meeting. In fact, the board had a moment of silence for the very terrible and tragic school shooting in Texas, which has affected all of us very deeply. All of us here in Palm Springs Unified, and certainly all of us across the country. And I sent home a letter to all families and staff, really talking about that, sharing some resources for parents to use with their children to talk about violence, but also to reassure our school community that we do take the safety of your children very, very seriously. So we've immediately instituted some new things for us here in the district. One is we are updating our violent incident, what used to be called active shooter training. And those trainings for all staff started last week, and they will continue through the summer and into the fall to make sure that all staff are trained in the very latest for a violent incident at a workplace or at a school site. I've also asked our security team to do a door lock assessment. So looking at all of our different schools, every time we build a school, I have to tell you, we build it slightly differently than the ones we built before. And that includes how the doors lock. So we don't have a consistent way of locking classroom doors. They're different from school to school. So I've asked our security department to do a survey of all of the different types of doors that we would like to lock in case of an emergency. I've also asked them to work very closely with our technology and facilities department to look at creating some different access control, and that would again provide an additional layer of protection. It also might mean when you go to visit your child's school that a door would be locked, and that would be different for us. But for right now, that's something that would be very, very important. So I'll give you more information as we continue to move forward with those projects. And then finally, tomorrow, if you're driving down Gene Autry Drive between the 10 freeway and Vista Chino, if you're coming towards Palm Springs, look to your right and you'll see a big, beautiful billboard thanking all of our staff and students and families for such a great school year and wishing them a very safe summer. And when you decide to drive back towards Desert Hot Springs, driving north on Gene Autry, you can look to the right on that side of the road and see a billboard thanking again our students and all of our staff for such a great school year. So look for those tomorrow. We'll be sending pictures out in case you don't drive down that road regularly. With that, I will turn it back over to you, President Jarrell.
Well, that sounds good. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we'll continue with public hearing, item 13. So we look at 13A and public hearing regarding Palm Springs Unified School District reserve levels for the 2022-23 budget adoption, OE-5. The board now opens the public hearing on PSUSD reserve levels for the 2022-23 budget adoption as required by Education Code Section 42127. Have any written comments been received by the district as to the PSUSD 2022-2023 reserve levels.
No written comments have been received.
Okay, so is there anyone present who wishes to provide oral comments on the PSUSD 2022-2023 reserve levels? Okay. If anyone wishes to comment, please come forward at this time. State your name and address your comments to the board. Okay, since there are no oral comments, I declare this public hearing closed. On 13B, we look at public hearing regarding Palm Springs Unified School District 2022-2023 budget adoption and the 21-22 estimated actuals, OE 5.1. The board now opens the public hearing on PSUSD 2022-2023 budget adoption and the 21-22 estimated actuals as required by Education Code 42127. Have any written comments been received by the district as to the PSUSD 2022-2023 budget adoption and the 21-22 estimated actuals?
No written comments have been received.
Okay. Is there anyone present in the audience who would like to provide any oral comments on the PSUSD 2022-23 budget adoption and the 21-22 estimated actuals? Please come forward at this time and address your comments to the Board of Education. Okay, Mr. Conde, Ms. Conde?
Thank you so much. Okay, dear Board of Education, thank you for your service. You know, we just sometimes listen through YouTube and we don't have the opportunity to say thank you. I know this is a community service and we really appreciate it. My comment about the budget, I was looking at everything that, that was presented, and I kind of thinking and reflecting about the numbers. I saw a decrease on students' population, but I have noticed an increase on positions, administrator positions are increasing, and the population of students is decreasing. So that's my comment. It's just something that I noticed, and I'm gonna take the book and start checking that. And you know, I've been so busy and haven't had time to really concentrate as a citizen, as you know, a homeowner, and as an educator checking, because we have that responsibility to check and see how our community, our school district is working. But it's something that I noticed, and I will allow you to just think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conde, for your comments. We appreciate you coming in and saying what you're thinking about. We appreciate that, and we have that noted. We'll move to 13C, public hearing for the Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, for Palm Springs Unified School District and Cielo Vista Charter School, OE5 and OE10. This is public hearing for the Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, for Palm Springs Unified School District and Cielo Vista Charter School, OE5 and OE10. The board now opens the public hearing on the Local Control Accountability Plan as required by Government Code Section 4217.10 at SEQ, sequential. Have any written comments been received by the district as to the LCAP plan for PSUSD and Cielo Vista Charter School?
No written comments have been received.
Okay, is there anyone present who wish to provide oral comments on the LCAP plans for PSUSD and Cielo Vista Charter School? Okay, with that, I'm sorry, would you like to come up?
You know, I have to take, I have to take the opportunity right now. I'm here, and many times I don't have the time, but I'm here, and I was able to listen to the person in charge of the LCAP. I would like to know if they are doing public meetings or hearings for this LCAP. So I didn't hear, last year anything about it. In the past, I know that the district has been really good providing those meetings to the community. I don't know if this was because of the pandemic, but I would like to see in more meetings where the community is involved and they know that these meetings are going on. Also, I have noticed that communication for the Hispanic population or Latino community is not there. I haven't seen that information on the TV, Hispanic TV. I haven't seen that information on flyers, Spanish flyers for the parents, for the community. I don't know if you have that on the website, but I haven't seen anything in Spanish. So that's something that I really would like you to take into consideration, that communication to the Hispanic population is very limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conde. I have noted your concerns and your comments, and we will note them in our notes for the meeting. Is that correct? All right. Okay, so is there anyone else that would wish to comment? Any board members that you have anything that you'd like to say? All right. With that, we will declare the public hearing closed. Okay. Next, we'll go on to item 14, board action items. This is 14A, approval of certificated and classified employee transactions, OE 4.4, and this is where Dr. Signoret will please present new appointments.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to ask Mrs. Cynthia Bloomberg to come on up. We are very pleased to recommend to the board this evening Mrs. Cynthia Bloomberg for the position of Coordinator of Special Education, Learning, and Improvement. Mrs. Bloomberg earned her bachelor's and master's degree from Cal State San Bernardino. She started her career with Palm Springs Unified as a special education teacher in 2004. In 2018, she was promoted to the position of special education teacher on special assignment, and in 2019, she was assigned as an interim program specialist. Then in 2021, she was promoted to program specialist full-time. Mrs. Bloomberg was recognized as Teacher of the Year in 2017 and has served as a CTI induction coach since 2014. We are confident she will do an outstanding job as the Coordinator of Special Education, Learning, and Improvement. Congratulations, Mrs. Bloomberg. Anything you'd like to share with the board and superintendent? Anybody you'd like to recognize this evening?
I just wanted to say thank you to the board, Dr. Sweezy, and cabinet for this opportunity to continue my position in the special education department and improving student achievement within our programs, and also say thank you to my family for their continuous support, and just thank you, and I'm excited to begin my new position. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck in your new position. Thank you. Okay, may I please get a motion to approve the following employment agreement with Cynthia Bloomberg, Coordinator of Special Education, Learning and Improvement, salary schedule 223, column 4, step 21, effective date 06/15/2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Mike said he didn't think so. Mike said he didn't.
I don't think we did.
Just that one. Okay, we'll proceed with item 14B, approval of recommended certificated substitute teacher pay rate increase, OE 4.9. This would be a pay rate increase. Can I get a motion to approve 14.B?
Move for approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. 14C, approval of Universal Pre-Kindergarten, UPK, Planning and Implementation Grant Program Plan, OE10. Item 14C, it would be approving Pre-Kindergarten Planning and Implementation Grant, OE10. Can I get a motion to approve 14C?
Move for approval?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. 14D, approval of compromise and release agreement number 2122-11 between parents and district dated May 19th, 2022, OE 6.1. Can I get a motion to approve 14D?
Move for approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, 14E. This is the approval of rejection of claim number 2021-2022-07, Jane Doe versus PSUSD 607027 OE7. Can I get a motion to approve item 14E, rejection of claim 2021-22-7?
Move for approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
14F, adoption of resolution 2021-22-110, authorization to provide a temporary loan to the Child Development Fund from the General Fund, OE5. Can I get a motion to approve 14.F?
Move for approval?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, 14G, adoption of resolution 2021-22-111, authorization to provide a temporary loan to the general fund from capital funds for fiscal year 2022-23, OE5. Can I get a motion to approve 14G?
Move for approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, 14H, resolution, adoption of resolution 2122-112, approval to award RFP number 22-02, infectious disease professional health support services, OE-6.3. Can I get a motion to approve 14.H?
Move for approval?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We can't bundle these. These have to be individual. Just keep going. Next. I believe we're on 14I. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Correct.
Approval to renew RFP number NS-2201 for the 22-23 school year, grocery, USDA commodity, and commercial equivalent food products, OE-6.3. Can I get a motion to approve 14.I?
Move for approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. 14J, approval to renew RFP number NS-22-02 for the 2022-23 school year, fresh produce products, OE 6.3. Can I get a motion to approve item 14J?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 14K, approval, I'll get that. Approval to award NFP number NS-23-01 for the 22-23 school year, paper non-food products, OE 6.3. Can I get a motion to approve 14.K? Point K.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. 14L, approval to award NFP number NS-23-02 for the 22-23 school year. Dairy products, OE 6.3. Can I get a motion to approve item 14.L?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay. We continue to 14M, approval of expulsion case 2021-22-061, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE 11. And 14N, approval of expulsion case 2021-2022-063, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE 11. And 14O, approval of expulsion case 2021-22-064, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE 11. And 14P, approval of expulsion case 2021-2022-065, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE 11. And approval of expulsion case 2021-2022-066, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE 11. Can I get a motion to approve items 14M through 14Q?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, next we continue with 15, Superintendent's consent items. All right.
President Guerrero, I want to pull item from 15 Superintendent consent item E, F, G, and H.
E, F, G, and H. Okay. So I continue with the ones that are pulled.
Is it E, F, G, and H?
Yeah.
4 of them, okay.
And then go back. Okay. So would it be okay with the board to approve the ones that were not pulled and then go back to those members, Bariqueta? Is that okay for y'all? All right, thank you. So we'll continue and we will look at items 15A, 15B, 15C, 15D, 15I, 15J, and 15K, and 15L. And we can bundle those? Yep. Okay. And we'll include all of those items in one consent vote. So. Move to approve. Thank you. And may I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So.
Do we need to move and approve before we open discussion on this floor?
Yes.
So I'll move.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
I'm sorry, I'll move 15 E, F, G, and H.
okay, Board Member Wood moves 14E, F, and J. H, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, now is the discussion. All right. So let's start with the discussion for approval of new job description, IEP Support Specialist, OE 4.7. So we're going to look for that first, okay?
Yeah, the first comment I have to clarify to the public, these four position is to create two of each, one monolingual, the other one bilingual. Is to create two positions, one diversity and racial equity specialist, and the other one is the same but bilingual.
That's correct. Yes. As
The
far as
other, the other question, probably Dr. Ruiz Rozzoni, in the first one, that, for example, in diversity and racial equity specialist and also the IEP support specialist, in the second page, in the knowledge and abilities, there is one language that says correct uses grammar, spelling, punctuation, and vocabulary of English, and a designated second language. That is for both positions. Because you see the one that is not bilingual,
Okay.
have the same language as the bilingual in mentioning the second language. The reason that, in part of the reason I pulled all four is probably to correct, or probably is correct. Look, you can look the second page under knowledge and abilities.
Actually, let me pull it up for
Yeah.
the paper one will be easier for me.
Very hard to find.
Give me 1 second here.
And just while Dr. Senior pulls up the job descriptions to answer that specifically, the one thing I do want to share, Member Espericueta, is these aren't actions to create jobs
Yeah.
yet. So, for example, there might be a bilingual job description and a monolingual job description, and we might make 10 bilingual
Yeah.
positions and 1 monolingual. So I just wanted to correct that
Yeah.
the approval of the job description isn't the same as creating the number of jobs, and that the number of jobs that are created once the job description is approved can vary from year to year, school to school. Sometimes you may only use one of those job descriptions, sometimes you may use the other. So I just wanted, it's not that we're approving actual positions right here, these are just that job title in the district.
Yeah, that's accurate. And Mr. Espericueta, also to get to a little bit more on the difference between the two, is that there actually is a pay difference between the bilingual and the monolingual English ones. There is, within the contract for Teams 2, there's already an automatic bilingual stipend for which they qualify. In order to qualify that's where they have the assessment and the qualifications to show that they're proficient in both languages. And that's by doing that, showing that level of proficiency, then they do qualify for an automatic additional 3% to their base salary. So that they are, but for us to be able to acknowledge that they do qualify for that, then they have to show that proficiency in both languages, but they are compensated. Did I capture that? I know our executive director, Lasagna Pitts, and her team helped put that together, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And it's my understanding that this stipend, the bilingual stipend, has been in effect for quite a long time in our district.
Yes, since 2016. So it's been in effect in a while. And so, there will be levels of proficiency, excuse me, that have to be demonstrated by one or the other. But the fact is that they're being compensated for demonstrating that level of proficiency.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think we have to, it's okay to approve.
Board members, very quick. I'm
I'm sorry, I'm trying to interpret a little bit, no pun intended. Because it's got some of the language highlighted, which was, I think, I don't know what the woman's name was talking about. But I see it as the same requirement: correct usage, grammar, spelling, punctuation, and vocabulary of English and a designated second language.
In both.
And it's in both.
And that is my point, to pass this job description, but I want to be sure that is correct or had to be removed from the monolingual
I
position.
think that the point is that on bilingual, you have to have English and a designated second language. On monolingual, you don't need that and a second designated language.
That is accurate. And again, I could have Lasagna explain, or Mrs. Pitts explain a little bit further. But in order to show, again, that difference in compensation that they will get for the bilingual, they have to demonstrate proficiency in both languages. And so that,
Understood on the bilingual one.
right,
On the monolingual one,
uh-huh.
it also says, and a designated second language. Right, if that position is a monolingual, why are we having a requirement for a second language proficiency?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
And that was on,
the issue isn't with the bilingual.
I hear you,
It's
I hear
with
you.
the monolingual piece.
Yeah, we can, it's on, I'm sorry?
It should
It just should be in English, yes.
Yeah,
So
and,
there-
and,
there's
and
not
I
an
think
expectation
we
for-
can vote for this, making that, it is a correction to making the correction.
Understood.
Because these
I-
public official records, that we had to pass to the.
Yeah, I mean, I was
That's a
assuming that
simple,
once we
that's a
got to the
simple
point of
correction we
actually
can do.
hiring somebody, we would
Yeah.
then not, based on this, be going,
Yeah.
oh, you have to be proficient in a second language.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
sure, we can, I would,
yeah, I apologize, I couldn't understand the question, but I understand now. Yeah, that's a simple edit.
and is there a second piece? Because there's something on the front
Mm,
page you didn't have.
Vote,
There was-
the second piece,
No, no,
please.
that's the second,
Yeah.
this one. This one.
No, that one is.
Sorry.
That is okay.
Sorry. This is okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
That is the one, the second.
And is there any other language that was at issue?
No.
Okay, so we addressed the compensation
Yeah.
and this typo.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good? Yeah.
All
It helps because I can see the notes.
I got you, understood.
Okay.
Yep.
I do think, President Jarrell was just asking, I do think you could, because these were in consent, I do think you can keep them grouped. And if someone makes a motion for approval with the noted correction or edit, you can do that.
Me? Okay. You need your microphone on.
Got
I
it,
can't
thank
hear
you. So, just kind of an order of process. Because these were in consent, I think they still can stay grouped for one vote. And if a board member wished to make a motion to approve with the noted edit of the monolingual side, and we have the tape, we'll be able to watch it. You could do that, they would be approved, and then we would make that correction, if that's what the board would like to do.
Is that good for you, Board Member Espericueta?
that is
Was
good.
there anything else that we missed that you might want to revisit
No, that
in
is,
E, F, G, or H? Okay,
That is-
so could we have a move to approve this group of job descriptions with intended modifications and corrections in the future? Is that how you said it? Yes? Can we get a move for approval? To accept these with corrections?
With the noted.
I think
Oh,
you need to
Tim
make,
just needs
I-
to.
I move for the approval. Yeah.
and I'll second.
Are we okay with that? Okay.
We
All
understand
right.
the intent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we have approved the rest of these items, consent items. So we'll continue with item 16, board consent item 16A, approval of meeting minutes, May 24th. Can I get a motion to approve board meeting minutes for May 24th,
Move for approval.
2022? All in favor?
Aye.
You didn't get a second.
Second.
Sorry, second?
Second.
I'm
was
sorry,
second.
thank you. Okay,
Aye.
all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, information. Item 17, first reading of revisions to Board Policy BP 5141.21 and Administrative Regulation AR 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions, OE 12. The board has received and reviewed this information. Next, do we have any suggestions for future agendas? Yes, Board Member Espericueta.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit before with Dr. Luis about to consider to allow one retired police officer and commander from Catira City. His name is Paul Herrera. He is requesting to allow the board education to give the time few times to have the presentation related to grants connected to the marijuana, how they use the grants to educate the youth concentrated in the Cathedral City High School in how to the consequences to drive, for example, in the under the influence of the marijuana, and he is requesting like 10 minutes, and probably Dr. Sweezy have to talk with him and giving the recommendation to us if it is appropriate to give like 10 minutes to have the presentation. He's from Cathedral City, and the grants is already there and is used in the Cathedral City High School.
So we had spoken about this earlier, and I suggested to Member Espericueta that if he was interested in having that as a topic on a future board agenda, that this would be the place to bring that up to see if the rest of the board wanted to have that on a future agenda. I also said another way could be, as again we did with Read With Me volunteers, that they presented during public comments. That's would be another way for them to do that. But again, as Mr. Espericueta said, it would be approximately, I think, I haven't met with him yet, but approximately a 10-minute presentation for a program that is in one of our schools, and that this would be the spot in the agenda where the rest of the board could let me know if that's something that you want to put on the agenda.
I don't think I understand what it is. It's a former police officer that's presenting what?
and commander for 30 years in Cathedral City.
Right, but what's the topic?
The marijuana taxes produce grants coming from the state to use in this case with youth. They provide the grants to the Cathedral City, and they decide where to use, and they decide to use it in the high school, in Cathedral City High School, to educate the youth about the consequences to use marijuana.
Got it.
Is he a current police officer?
No,
he's
retired.
But this is currently used at Cathedral City High School.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he wants to come and just explain it to the Board of Education.
right.
Okay.
Okay. So at this time, we'll complete number 20, debrief.
So I'm sorry, Madonna, can I just ask though, so is the board, am I getting direction from the board to schedule that presentation?
Let's take a little query. Are you interested in seeing Paul Herrera speak to the board? I am.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, how about you, Ms. Berrycutter?
Okay,
Thank you for asking.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
we'll set that up.
Awesome. So we'll look at our debrief. Board Member Espericueta, any final comments tonight?
No, I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you.
How about Board Member Wood? Would you like to say anything?
Maybe no.
Okay.
I prefer no.
And how about Board
Keep it to
Member
myself
Clerk
tonight.
Cornett?
No, just thanks for the presentations tonight,
Yeah.
Dr. Murray, and Dr. Pfeffer. A lot of work involved, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you. And my final comments is I'm proud to be wearing our emblem, our flag colors today on Flag Day. And our quote is, "You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave." And we take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, separating it by white stripes, thus showing that we have separated from her. And the white stripes shall go down to posterity, representing our liberty. So happy Flag Day. So that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And so, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, thanks everybody.